Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, welcome to Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Join paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Malek and psychic demonologist Jennifer Malek as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptids and monsters, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, metaphysics, forbidden archaeology, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, with top analysis from the experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, unusual, or mysterious, if it's bizarre, creepy, and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, it's here on Paraversal Universe. Here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, welcome to Paraversal Universe, brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday.
Paraversal Universe is produced by Kat Hobson, the voice for Fate Magazine Radio, over at WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We're also heard on WCET 101.7 FM out of Columbia, South Carolina, and the Rift Radio Network family based out of Lakeside, Virginia. Welcome, one and all. And hello to everybody in the chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. The archive for the show will be available as well. Show archives from over the years can be found in various places on the web, including archive-like page called Paraversal Universe Show Archives. Also, check out our guest promo page, Paraversal Universe Radio, for what's upcoming in the near future. We hope everyone is doing well. As always, autumn is upon us, a very beautiful time of year, and we have a fantastic show coming up today. We're going to be talking to ufologist Tom Conwell. But first, as always, let's do our shoutouts. Shoutouts go to those folks who share our show banners on a regular basis, or recently that we are aware of. We always appreciate it greatly and thank you kindly. Who do we have this week, John?
This week we have Walt Christos, Thoughts of Christos, Katrina Cooper, Rhodey Speak, Dennis Koch, Jason Bland, Paranormal Soup, Cindy Liu, Robert Bull, Metaphysical Bound, Howie Aldell from the Orion Effect, Kat Hobson at WBHM, Lawrence DeMisa, Jean Broida, Lisa Reynaga, The Rift, Sudan, Lori Kreslaw, Dr. Chuck Kennedy, Project PSI Institute, Ty Ward, Fate Magazine Radio, Clairvoyance, Doc Brokus, Paranormal Daily News, DM Siegling, and Julie Wrench of Monster X.
Alrighty, thank you, everyone. Okay, so ufologist Tom Conwell has been an electronic technician with the U.S. Navy and Honeywell Incorporated for 42 years. Honeywell temperature control, fire alarm, and security software specialist. Bona medical engineer. Is a fire alarm level 3 certified. A meteorologist and HVAC engineering resource. Tom has a wide range of experience with keen awareness of physics, computer, and internet software, and a broad knowledge of electronics and how it interacts or intersects with the paranormal world and UFOs. Tom studies databases for forensic pattern researching, as a forensic pattern researcher. Over the past 3 years, Tom has written 3 volumes of a book series called They Are Here, Volume 1, 2, and 3. A collection of blogs called Going Interstellar, and has studied and researched UFO sighting reports from the U.S. East Coast, the Central U.S., and the Western U.S., and given speeches about each of these subjects. Tom has assembled a map of UFO sightings, which has revealed many anomalies, which we'll be discussing tonight, and is now an integral part of his research studies. Tom's next book will be about what UFO sightings reveal about their technologies and should be completed soon. 2019? I guess we will find out. So shall we bring him on?
Yes, let's bring him on.
Tom, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hi, Kevin and Jennifer. How are you guys?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Doing well, thank you.
And welcome
Good.
to Paraversal Universe.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be on your show. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, there's so much stuff we can discuss, and ufology is such a hot topic right now.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, let me pre-apologize. My dog is about 6 inches from my head, and every so often she hears a dog from another place and she goes berserk. So if you hear that, I'm sorry.
Apology accepted.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So we always ask our first-time guests to tell us how they got in their perspective fields. And in your case, of course, that'd be ufology. When did the subject of UFOs materialize in your world, and how did that develop into the ufologist you are today?
Wow, okay. The idea of ufology and UFOs, that was born in me when I was about 10. The very first thing that I wanted to do was to try to get a book that had something about UFOs in it. And I saw that book in a bookstore and begged my mom to buy it for me. I was often off to the races at that point. I really couldn't wait. I did not get involved with ufology per se as a study or doing research or going to conventions or anything like that, because, well, as a kid, we just never really had that option to do. We're always living paycheck to paycheck. As you know, that can be real hard. And so what I tried to do is just keep my hands in things and read any books that I could find. And so that's when my idea about ufology was born. Now, fast forward through my entire working life, and then I was with Honeywell, and my retirement was coming up. So I realized at that point I was going to have to do something that interested me. Well, there's 2 things that interested me at that point, and that was the paranormal and UFOs. So the first thing I did was I joined a paranormal team. And I got an opportunity to do paranormal investigations for about 5 years. During that time, I had the opportunity with this team who was trying to start up a UFO group. And so I jumped up and raised my hand. Include me, please, whatever you do. So they brought me into UFOs. And what I wanted to do was write a whole series of my thoughts on what UFOs were and how they did what they did into blogs. And I started writing blogs for the paranormal group that I was in, and it got pretty interesting. I was recognized more as a UFO guy than I was as a paranormal guy. And that's how it pretty much began to slowly transition from paranormal into UFOs. And after a while, the UFOs became so big for me, at least, that I had to put aside the paranormal stuff. I still pay attention to all the things that I can. I'm a member of a whole lot of paranormal groups and whatever on Facebook, and look at the comments, and every so often I'll throw one in. My comments are usually based on the electronics related to what people do when they're on paranormal investigations. And I have been writing about UFOs ever since. And I've been retired now about 10 years. So I guess I've been in ufology solid about 8 years. So that's pretty much my history. And go ahead with your next question.
Well, just as we were saying before, it's what a time to be a ufologist with all the attention ufology is starting to receive. That's unprecedented, actually.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the current media hype involving UFOs?
Well, this is step one to probably a 30-step process in getting the populations of the world to accept extraterrestrial visitors without really thinking twice about it. They have to, first of all, have talk about UFOs and extraterrestrials to be commonplace, just like you would chat about how your day went at the kitchen table. This is the first step. They try to open it up a little bit, show you some weird stuff, and have everybody go crazy about what they're seeing. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. It's going to get very crazy over the next few years, and I would suspect by probably at the latest 2025, we'll know absolutely everything there is to know.
You think disclosure will include things like alien abduction? Because some people say you can't have a true disclosure without tackling that too, and that may be the reason why they're so reluctant to come forward. Because they know what's going on, and they may even, when I say they, I guess the deep state would know what's going on, and they may even be involved with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're involved in the regard that they've allowed it to happen.
Right.
In exchange for something that the ETs gave them, some sort of technology. Don't know what that is yet, but they're going to have some real problems because the next few revelations that they have, people are going to start saying, "When did you know that? How long have you been talking to them about that? Why haven't you used that technology for the good of everyone? What else have you created? Where's all our money going?" And the questions are going to become worse and worse and more accusatory, and the people in the know are going to have their hands full. They are going to be either thrown out of office or drummed out of whatever position they're in, and it's not going to be good.
That's and it may already be reaching that point for them on the inside, for all we know.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're having meetings every week, wondering if somebody asks this particular question, how are we going to answer it? And I think that they've been through all these scenarios already, because eventually somebody's going to say, "How long have you known, and where's our money going?"
Have you seen? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say that there's going to be a lot of problems in that regard, and it's coming up soon.
Right. Have you seen the Navy footage?
Oh yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Um,
As far as the UFO itself and all that.
okay, it's kind of generic. They didn't really give a good picture of it. They showed it to us on a infrared scan, and I think we even saw a flash of what it looks like on radar, or at least the plane's radar, and it is well, it's just generic. The things are seen from a great distance, and it doesn't show very much. They have films of these craft landing, people coming out and walking around. That's when the real disclosure occurs. But for this other stuff, this is just step one, to show things, fuzzy pictures, and to suggest things, and that's all that they're doing at this point.
Right, and certainly, out of all the videos, like you said, that they could have picked, they really, I'm sure there was a lot of people involved in the decision of which one are we going to release. And, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, they picked generic, and they picked generic, and one that isn't very revealing for a good reason, because they want to slowly introduce us to what it is that they're seeing.
And the other thing, too, is last year, for the first time, university offered courses in ufology in Turkey. And now, since then, other colleges are, I've heard of a couple others now that are doing the same, following suit. Some people feel America's dropped the ball on this, but I think that's interesting, too, just that academia has accepted ufology now as a credible science. Point. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
The U.S. has the most liability in this. I think they're the deepest involved with UFOs. And if you went to, let's pick one of the names you said, Turkey, and you were to attend a course, this course would be probably pretty revealing, pretty interesting, but they've always been generally interesting. These other countries are happy to talk about things that they see. If we talk about things that everybody knows about, then it's going to get very, very difficult for the people who start talking about it, because they're the ones going to be bombarded with questions. So they would rather, at this point, not say anything.
Yeah, and that's a real good perspective on that too, because we are probably the deepest, us and Russia and maybe China, but yeah, for sure, there's no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And also, you know what? Today, would you want to take a break first, or?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay, we'll take a break and then.
Yeah, we'll continue. So you are listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guest for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming. To the skeptic, there will never be enough. Hello, everyone. Join Kevin and Jennifer Malek, the host of Paraversal Universe, every Friday here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET-FM and The Rift. Log on or tune in as they check out the mysteries found within the 8 categories of the unknown and unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, cryptids and monsters, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, metaphysics, and forbidden archaeology. Listen as Kevin and Jennifer interview the top minds in their respective fields as they share theories and information regarding these unsolved mysteries. For future show and archive information, one can find Paraversal Universe on Facebook, Twitter, and MeWe under various Paraversal Universe headings. So, for excellent talk radio about the unknown and unexplained, check out Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society, Ltd., and produced by WBHM-DB.com.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Welcome back from our first commercial break, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek, and we'd like to take a minute to thank everybody who makes Paraversal Universe possible, including graphic art director Lawrence D. Meza, music theme by Matt Stenz, announcer Frank Lee, producer and owner at WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Kat Hobson, also to Howie Odell and Lisa Renaga in the Rift family, and also to Michael Vera over at WCET-FM. Thank you all for carrying our content and working together on our behalf and the behalf of our audience everywhere. And of course, a huge thank you to God in heaven, whose strength beyond strength is stronger than all, for granting us this wonderful show and opportunity here to be with you all.
Amen.
In appreciation to the various platforms we are on, including Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Twitch, YouTube, Dailymotion, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Blog Talk, Podbean, Google Play, Mixcloud, and Paranormal Livestream app, which is streamed and restreamed from various other outlets all over the world via the internet. And that's a cool thing. This segment of Paraversal Universe is brought to you by the UFO Wisconsin Research Team, Wisconsin's alternative to MUFON, and also by the Paranormal Daily News, who now have a page on their website dedicated to Paraversal Universe and the Paralogian Report, where our latest episodes are listed and linked. And this is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking to ufologist Tom Conwell. Tom, are you still with us?
I am.
Alrighty. So just before we went off break, just before we took a break, I was just about to open up the whole, topic, of course, today is that day when everyone...
The great Area 51 raid that everyone's been talking about for months.
Yes. So what are your thoughts on that? And have you seen anything about that today at all?
It's impossible not to see something about it. As a matter of fact, I posted several memes about it on Facebook. As far as I'm concerned, that idea is monstrously stupid.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason to ever do anything like that, and hopefully no one will be injured in this act. That's all I can hope for.
That's the bottom line, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, that nobody gets hurt. I
Yep.
mean, they can't expect to go to that place and try and raid it and not have something happen to them.
That's true.
And, people sit there and say that, oh, well, they took that sign down that warns you what happens if you cross Area 51. Just because the sign isn't there doesn't mean that they don't still have special orders.
Yep. Yeah, it's beyond belief how dumb that was. I think it actually started as a joke and got out of hand.
yeah, and I wonder, if anyone were to get hurt, if that could come back to the guy who made that event.
If somebody were a creative attorney, they may be able to link one with the other, but then you have all this other nonsense in between with state lines, and you can't sue them over state lines. It'd have to be a federal thing. It'd just be a mess.
Right. Well, it's still going on right now, as far as we know.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like Jennifer said while we were at commercial, one of the pages we have is parasociology, and of course in parasociology this is kind of a big deal, because there's a collective here focusing on paranormal things or what have you, UFOs and whatnot, and so we I posted about it right away, and I put a live stream up, and the live stream was taken down within I think 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of the live streams are probably coming down. I heard they were rerouting traffic at one point. I don't know if that was true or not.
No, I heard too that they were trying to shut down that particular highway or do something so they couldn't make it there. I couldn't remember exactly, but I know the Air Force has been trying different ways aside from just warning them to not to come out there.
Right.
All you need to do is to take a bulldozer and just bulldoze a 6 foot wide area across it, and vehicles can't get over it. People wouldn't walk an additional 6 miles, and it's simple to fix the road because the weather's so perfect out there. You'd never have an issue. It wouldn't be like doing that in let's say Wisconsin or New York. It's a whole different issue when you dig up a road there, because you have to put down the correct underlayment, otherwise the road will heave up in the spring.
Yeah,
Right.
And of course my thing is, I'm all for disclosure. We all want disclosure. I mean, it's about time, but there are ways to go about it, and this is certainly not one of those ways to go about wanting disclosure.
Nope.
But again, it does throw the whole idea out in the public eye. And like we were talking before, the fact that they're just talking about it more, and you're seeing major publications write multiple articles within a year about UFOs. What did they say? The Washington or the New York Times had 4 articles in the last year, and the Washington Post had 3 about UFOs. When decades would go by without hearing anything about it. So, but yeah. Anyways. Another thing I was going to ask you about was your thoughts on the Bob Lazar thing. That's something else that's really big right now.
Ooh.
That whole Bob Lazar.
Yeah. I can't get a read on that. I'm not in the know there. I would like to think that a portion of that is true. I don't know which portion, and I don't know what quantity of which portion, but there's some truth in that. I just don't know what the level of truth is, and I think that this may have been leaked out to start the whole conversation going.
And yeah, that would be another example.
Yep.
Just like, and I know Dan Aykroyd was just on Joe Rogan talking.
Yeah.
There's,
yes.
And of course then you got To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge. And even today he was posting about stuff. He's going to reveal stuff soon, and I've seen those posts before. But yeah, interesting, just how they're putting it into the culture now. And like you said, it truly does seem like they're making it every day, just like anything else.
Yep. And now this is the same thing that they're doing with the what do you call those? The just do a blank. The conspiracy theories. There's a ton of those. There's ships on the backside of the moon. There's a base here. There's a base there. All these different things. They're all conspiracy theories. I'm sure that a portion of every single conspiracy theory has a nugget of truth, and they vary based on what somebody may happen to be throwing out. Such as underwater bases, I think that's mostly true. But when you have a hollow moon, or the moon is brought in by an extraterrestrial civilization, I don't buy that for a second. However, as far as the moon being hollowed out and having a base on it, I think that may have happened at one point. So there's a nugget of truth in absolutely everything.
Just like folklore. And yep. So we have a list here of some topics that you have delved into. And let's see, 1, 2. I think the one I would like to start with is Native Americans and U.S. sightings. And the reason I start with that is I wasn't sure if some of those Native American reports may be older, having to do with their history and their what's handed down to them and whatnot. But I thought that might be a good place to start.
Okay. In my second book, They Are Here, Volume 2, it's a talk about the UFO sightings in the central U.S. I was doing research, wondering why ships were seen in certain areas and not in others. And I couldn't put my finger on why they may be seen in some areas that were out in the wilderness and then other areas that were only like in the middle of cities. It didn't make sense that you would have a whole chunk of sightings in all of the bigger cities and out in the wilderness where nobody lives. Why the heck would you have UFO sightings out there? So I had to look into every single possible reason of why a ship would travel multiple light years from their home planet to here, and why they would start looking into our planet. What do we have in these places that would interest them? Well, I had to look at everything. Is there something in nature that may be very unusual that they want to look at? Is it a waterway, like a large river or a lake? Is it because that's where power plants happen to be located? And if it's a river, maybe they have a nuclear plant. That's also a possible clue. What about our nuclear silos that we have that are aimed toward Russia and wherever else they may be aimed? Well, among those things that I looked at, one of the things I had to look at was pollution. And when you look at pollution, the first thing you think of is the Native Americans do not like how we're polluting our planet. So there was an extraneous link with pollution that I had to look into. So I started looking into Native American lore and the stories that they've handed down, at least the ones that are published. And I came across something that was very interesting. One of the people whose name I came across was Cheryl Lynn Carter. Cheryl, yeah, so you know her.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Okay. Now, Cheryl is from central Michigan. And I had the opportunity to interview her. Now, I had no idea what she was going to say. And I started asking her about the extraterrestrial question and what she may have been told when she was younger. Well, I just about jumped out of my skin when she started telling me that the stories that she heard when she was younger in what she called sweat lodges had to do with you take care of your planet, and later on, you may be spared off this planet and be taken up into space while the planet's reset if the other inhabitants of the Earth are not taking care of it. Well, I thought, holy crap, I can't believe what I'm hearing. So that sent me off in a tangent looking at the tribe that she was in, which I think was a Chippewa. And the other thing was the what's the name of that other? Oh yeah, the Ojibwe tribe, which is out of Wisconsin, I think.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
Yeah. And they had stories that way back they were told how to live, shown how to live by people that came out of the water. And these people that came out of the water would return to the water at night. And that's how these stories went. Well, now we have all these ships that are being seen entering the water, leaving the water. It's suspected that there's all kinds of either parking areas or locations or bases or whatever you may want to call them in the oceans and in the lakes. So this all became a whole great big story that consumed the second half of my book. And I never expected it until Cheryl told me what she was told as a youngster. It was the whole thing. It was very, very interesting. I like Cheryl very, very much. And we had a chat the other night on Facebook about her newest book. And I shared some of my latest research with her on earthquakes. So very, very interesting person. And I can't wait to meet her in person because I'm going to sit her down and we're going to have a heart-to-heart.
I wonder if she'll be at the Chicago Ghost Conference this year. We saw her a couple of years ago when we attended, and we'll be back to this year.
She might be.
Yeah. What's that? Is it?
No. So we have some questions for you that came in from the chat room.
Sure.
The first question for you is, what is an interesting thing you have learned from your time studying UFOs?
Okay. Let me write this down. Okay. Wow, there's a lot that I've learned. Number one, I wasn't certain if I was ever going to uncover any evidence that ships are hiding or parked in underwater. I never expected to uncover that kind of evidence. What I have is within the National UFO Reporting Center, there's probably to date, there's probably 85,000 sightings. And
database.
Yeah, it's really big. And these sightings are broken up into 50 different states. So what I started doing when I started putting my books together is I would break them up into the states and read the descriptions of the sightings, and each one of them has a long description on it. So I started reading them, and I couldn't stop reading them. There's some tremendous information in there, just because people would be saying things, oh yeah, and I was looking out over the lake, and I saw this thing go down into the water, and it was brightly lit. And well, if they said that once, they probably said it 1,000 times. So if all these people are seeing this stuff, then there must be a reason for them to go underwater. The reason could be that this is their base of operation, but it could also be that these ships are running excessively hot when they're within an atmosphere. Obviously, if they're out in space, they're nice and cool. But if they're running within an atmosphere, they probably heat up. And the best way to dissipate that heat would be go underwater. So maybe that's the reason that they're there. But when I started putting these reports together on a map, I found out that there's 2 areas within the Great Lakes that are worthy of note. One of them is in Lake Michigan, north of Chicago, and the other one is in Lake Erie or Lake Ontario. Now, the reason I say or is because Lake Erie is not particularly deep, so they may want to go into an area that is a whole lot deeper, which is Lake Ontario, which is right next to it. So I can't tell where the ships are coming from, but they're coming from right around that area because Buffalo is inundated with sightings, and Buffalo is in between both of them. So, so that is that's one thing I learned, that there's absolutely a link between water and the ships entering the water. There's also a link on the West Coast because there's more sightings there, at least initially. There was more sightings there than anywhere in the country, like Los Angeles.
Okay.
And
we hate to cut you off. We can continue this after this next commercial break.
Okay, fine.
You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We will be right back with our guest for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
In today's breaking news, over 1.8 million people have signed a petition that is circulating throughout social media and online, pledging to raid Area 51 in hopes of freeing any extraterrestrials that could be on site. Also seeking full disclosure from the U.S. government. Could anything actually come of this? What could be the outcome? Find out on our continuing coverage at 9 p.m. here on WBHM-DB Action News. You're kidding, right? Most of those people couldn't raid a refrigerator if it weren't for it having a light in there. How about this? For some real information that you can use, instead of the other, sources, stay here where you are, on WBHM-DB, Birmingham, Alabama.
Abnormal Alabama presents Crypticon October 25th and 26th at the Port in the Wharf, Orange Beach. Bigfoot, the paranormal, authors and speakers, vendors, and your chance to experience the Psychomantium. There'll be a costume contest and much, much more. October 25th and 26th at the Port of the Wharf, Orange Beach. Get more info, directions, and tickets available now at abnormalalabama.com. That's abnormalalabama.com.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our second break. This is Paraversal Universe on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, also heard on WCET-FM, the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek. Before we get back to the show, we want to tell you all that we're also on MeWe and Twitter. Our like and group pages on Facebook are under various headings as well. And having said that, check out our Society's like page on Facebook, the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, as well as Jennifer's like page, Jennifer Malek, Psychic Demonologist. Leave a like if you like what you see, and we always appreciate it. And this segment is brought to you by The Book Trail of the Sasquatch, A Shaman's Journey, by cryptozoologist and Iroquois shaman Don Young, who is also a member of the NWPS. Check out his Facebook group pages, Kindred Forest and Indigenous Americas. Any comments for this week's show can be addressed in the chat room, and we are going to do that right now. Let's get back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are talking to ufologist Tom Conwell.
All right. So the next question we have for you is, have you ever seen different types of UFOs, and have you ever been in one?
Okay. Have I seen other types of? Yes, I've seen UFOs 4 different times. Never really close. The closest one I saw was about 3/4 of a mile away. That it's actually pretty close, but it hasn't been like really close that I could tell what actual type it was. What I saw was a fireball, a ball of fire in the sky.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people say, oh, fireball, but that's a meteor. Okay. Well, a meteor, just so you know, hits the Earth's atmosphere at between 30 and 60,000 miles per hour and zips across the sky. It doesn't stop. It doesn't change direction. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't take any more than about 3 seconds to cross the sky. All right. What I saw, each one of them, and I saw 11 of them, they lasted approximately 4 minutes each. So I don't know what they were. I suspect that they were actual flying saucer discs that were hidden from view. You can look right at these things and say, my God, that is just beautiful. Those are the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. And as they go across, and then you realize, holy crap, I'm probably looking at something from another planet, you know. They're that pretty. They're that pretty to look at. They are not imposing. They don't scare the hell out of you like a UFO would do. Okay, they are really beautiful. I saw that one time. I saw that one of those the next night in a different place in the sky. And then I saw 2 other things that one was it looked like a portal was open, like there was a bright red flash in the sky and something came out of the middle of it. And what actually shot out of the middle of this, what looked like an explosion, but it really wasn't an explosion. What shot out of the middle of this was a bright white light, and it took off faster than anything I've ever seen in my life. That was the 3rd thing I saw. And then the 4th thing I saw is I was heading into work one morning, and I looked up in the sky. It was actually pretty low in the sky, and there was this super, and I do mean super, bright red light. And I looked at it and said, I don't ever remember seeing a red light there. maybe they put in a one of those radio tower. I said, no, that's too bright. What is going on there? And then all of a sudden, this thing took off as fast as anything I've ever seen, right at me. And then as it got probably within 50 feet of me, took off in 90-degree angle, way up in the sky and disappeared. That wasn't an airplane, by the way. So those are the 4 things I saw that were very unusual and most likely not from this earth.
Okay, so the other question we have for you is, have you ever met an ET? And if not, have you ever met anyone who has met one?
Oh, okay. Great question. And the reason that's such a good question, I have never been taken by an extraterrestrial. But I have made lots and lots of interviews with people who have been taken. And what I learned from those interviews is every single person that I interviewed, now this may not be every person in the whole world who was ever taken, but every person that I interviewed was extremely psychic. And I think that's what attracted the ET to take them. And several of the people remember very clearly their meetings, and also meet with them on a regular basis, like every couple of years. They have an opportunity to talk with them, and they also have the opportunity to ask them questions and to let them know what they're thinking. So there's some very interesting things going on as far as abductions, and those are some of the interesting things that I learned in abductions.
And then the other question we have from you for you is, any opinion about ancient aliens?
Again, as far as the ancient alien, the whole ancient alien picture, and this is the entirety of all the shows that they put out. Okay, the whole picture. There's large measures of truth in there, but there's also measures that of nonsense that they've had to include in order to make something sound reasonable.
To cover things up.
Possibly to do that. I don't know if they're really trying to cover. I think what they're trying to do is to create links between things that don't have links. So they create a story, and all of a sudden everything makes sense when you're watching it. But I have a hunch that some of the things aren't so truthful.
Yeah, I concur with that. I always, people have asked me that question before, and I say, I'd say for sure 3/4 of it is accurate and truthful, and there may be up to 1/4 of it though that is not. And whether it's by accident or by design is probably a little of both. And so you got to take everything, those shows with a grain of salt, as they're ultimately entertainment, But yeah, I mean, a good chunk of that is undisputable. The information they share.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
And I was writing some notes down before when you were talking about USOs, unidentified submergible objects. And the first thing I wrote down was the Michigan Triangle, or the Great Lakes Triangle.
Yeah.
Which is in the bottom half of or the lower part of Lake Michigan, I should say, if you look at a map. Which brings it closer to north of Chicago. So that's interesting. And the second thing I wrote down was Michael Lee Hill. We've had him on the show a couple times over the years, and he's a videographer and a ufologist who films stuff over Lake Erie, UFOs. And I know his work's been featured on different programs and stuff. But you were talking about if UFOs are using like the Great Lakes or oceans or seas as bases, I could see potentially each Great Lake possibly having one. But like you said, it's shallower than the other one. So, but who's to say?
Yep. Well, sure. I actually think that there's probably only one base up there, and the rest of the areas are used as stopover points. Maybe there's a coffee shop under there or something, you know. But I can't see them creating a whole base and a whole superstructure in each of those places that are so close to each other, especially when they can traverse from one to the other in literally seconds because they travel so fast.
You know, that's a good point too, is that they wouldn't need that many unless they had some agenda that would require them to have that many.
Yeah, yeah. Now, like maybe one in the U.S., and perhaps one out in the deep oceans, so they could have easy access to North and South America and Africa and Europe. And in the other ocean, so they have easy access to perhaps Alaska and the Orient and Australia. So because they travel so fast, it's not necessary to, you know, put a base every 150, 200 miles, because you can travel that in like a minute and a half.
Well, if there are multiple, let's say there, and I know, I guess my personal belief is that there are multiple species of aliens out there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Whether they're interdimensional or extraterrestrial or interterrestrial or whatever. There, you know, so one question would be, could there be more than one kind, more than one species or race having bases underwater?
Oh, well, sure, that's always possible. I was just referring to one particular species. There's no need to have multiple bases, but for another species, yeah, it's possible that they would also be in the water, but I would think that these extraterrestrials are probably just as territorial as we are, and they wouldn't want to share. Although maybe I'm wrong. That, you know, maybe some would have bases within the mountains. Others would have bases around the earth. Others may have a base on the moon, and maybe still others would have it out in the different asteroid belts. So, you know, there's lots of reasons why I don't think that they would necessarily mix. They want to do their own thing and keep to themselves. But who knows? I could be wrong. I'm just guessing.
So we have, we have 2 minutes before break. Was there any other question from the chat at all?
There's a couple.
They coordinated its efforts. Yeah, I don't know. Why don't we take a break now? Can we do that like 2 minutes before? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just take our break now.
And then because when we come back, then we can get into more of the topic.
Okay.
Sounds good. This is Paraversal Universe that you were listening to. We'll be right back with our guest for the next segment.
President Trump calls it beautiful, not inappropriate. On Lisa Brady, Fox News. His description of a phone call with a foreign leader that led to a whistleblower complaint. The president insisting those conversations are always appropriate and the report is fake news.
Anything I do, I fight for this country. I fight so strongly for this country. It's just another political hack job. That's all it is.
Now the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the president pressed Ukraine's leader multiple times to investigate the son of former Vice President Joe Biden. The son had been on the board of a Ukrainian energy company that was under investigation at one time. Homeland Security will shift part of its focus to racially motivated attacks, specifically by white supremacists. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal has this live.
Lisa, DHS Acting Secretary Kevin Malek said using what they've learned fighting foreign terrorism, they're implementing what he calls a new strategic framework to go after extremists here at home, citing attacks on synagogues and churches, as well as attacks motivated by hate, like the mass shooting in El Paso.
Today, white supremacist extremism is one of the most potent ideologies driving acts of targeted violence in this country. The FBI has highlighted a 40% growth in these investigations.
He says there's evidence many attacks and shootings could be prevented, that family and friends often voice concerns about would-be shooters ahead of time, and that they plan to work to counter extremism online by working with the private sector, including tech companies. Lisa.
Jessica, the New England Patriots have just released controversial receiver Antonio Brown, who was signed less than 2 weeks ago after a controversial exit from his last team, the Raiders. Only days after the Patriots signed him, Brown's former personal trainer accused him of rape in a civil lawsuit. A statement from the Patriots says they feel it's best to move in a different direction. This amid reports of a new NFL probe of threatening text messages to his accuser. America's listening. Fox News.
The following message is brought to you by TD Ameritrade. So you've done a ton of research on a trade, but you can't decide if you want to go through with it. TD Ameritrade's trade desk might be the secret to figuring it all out. Just go to tdameritrade.com/trade desk to see how they can help gut check your trades. Member SIPC.
Now.
An SUV drives through a mall in suburban Chicago. At least 2 people injured at the Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg. Roger Thacker is a store owner there.
People running and saying, run, run, run. Then the security came, and we followed the procedure. We put the gates down.
Police are investigating. Still no word on what may have motivated the driver or who that is, but he is in custody. A deadly tour bus crash in southern Utah near the Bryce Canyon National Park. At least 4 people killed, up to 15 more critically injured. That, too, under investigation. Tens of thousands taking to the streets in cities around the world demanding government action on climate change.
It seems that the only people standing on the wrong side of history on this issue is our government.
Protests in dozens of countries and multiple U.S. cities. Presidential hopeful Beto O'Rourke joining the climate strike in Denver.
I want the United States to be the global leader on this issue.
Today's protests ahead of a United Nations meeting in New York on Monday. Something completely different, drawing people to the Nevada desert.
The Nye County Sheriff's Office says about 40 people gathered overnight, 2 detained outside the Area 51 military base, with plans to storm the gates.
The aliens deserve to be set free, and that's what we're going to do.
Before he and others, amid stern warnings, left peacefully, as others attend alien-inspired events near the tiny Nevada towns of Rachel and Hico.
But to come up and just have a whole bunch of people going, okay, hey, aliens, come on, where are you? Let's see.
All this stems from an internet hoax posted in June, inviting people to storm the once secret military base.
Fox's Jeff Manasso, the man who made the original post, now calls it a joke that got out of hand. A red end to the week on Wall Street, the Dow sliding 160 points. Mr. Brady, this is Fox News.
The following message is brought to you by TD Ameritrade. When it comes to investing, each of us does it our own unique way. Some of us want to go it alone. Others might prefer some guidance. Regardless of your style, TD Ameritrade is always creating new solutions to help you. From their award-winning technology to personalized guidance, they have everything you need to invest on your terms. Visit tdameritrade.com/YTDA to learn more and get started today. Member SIPC.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Paraversal Universe. Now in our second hour, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. Also heard on the Rift Radio Network out of Virginia and WCET-FM out of South Carolina. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek, coming to you from Rylander, Wisconsin, here in the USA at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center. You can always enjoy excellent fringe talk radio for awesome and informative radio shows about the paranormal, supernatural, esoteric, and Fortean topics on this network and affiliate platform websites. Not only our show, but many other good shows about different facets of the unknown and unexplained. Much to listen to and much to enjoy. Stream live on TuneIn, iTunes, or the Paranormal Livestream app. Available from Android app and the iTunes Store. And this segment is brought to you by the Supernatural magazine, where our articles can be read. All right, back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we were talking to ufologist Tom Conwell. Are you still with us, Tom?
Yes, I am.
So during the break, another question came in for you. And this question is, do you think that humanity is ready for ET to become public?
Some of humanity is. That's why they're doing it slowly. Split the difference. Some people are just not ready. I don't like people who are intolerant of others. It really bothers me. And if they're intolerant of a human being that is just has a different skin color, what are they going to do about somebody who is totally and completely different, and then all of a sudden shows up in their backyard with weapons that they can only dream of and abilities that they've never seen before? What are they going to say? Why are you here? What is your intent with us? Why don't you just go back where you came from? We don't need you. It's just going to be bad with some people. The ones who are generally intolerant. The ones that aren't won't have a problem. So it's like two different answers there.
Right. Yeah. I've always thought that like in years past and even decades past, like, back in the day when they had War of the Worlds and people actually like jumped out of buildings and stuff thinking that was real.
Yeah.
And then so there's always been the idea that if humanity were faced with that we would go nuts and there'd be anarchy and like you said, Tom, there'd be just blind hatred and whatnot towards whatever, and for sure.
Yeah, there's probably let me give you some percentages, and this is just an opinion. I think that probably 60% of the people would just welcome them with open arms. Another 20 or 30% would say, well, okay, it's nice to meet you. I hope that I can believe you. And the other 20% will actively fight against them.
Yeah. So we have our list here. Where would you like to go next on this?
Surprise me.
Okay. Well, how about the 100 anomalies in U.S. sightings map?
Oh, okay. I forgot to grab that from the thing here. Let me see if I can reach that. I created this sighting map and put pins in the map. And from these pins, I stepped back and took a look at everything that was there and realized that there were groups of pins in areas that there shouldn't be. In other words, some large cities had a couple of pins. Other large cities had millions of pins, and nothing really made sense. So I sat down with the list and drew on another map where all of the differences were, why there were areas that just didn't make sense to me. one of the areas, one of the really big areas in the U.S. that I'm going to mention is probably right in your backyard. There's an area from almost from South Bend, Indiana, that goes across to the west to southern Chicago and loops up around to the north along Lake Michigan, all the way up into Wisconsin to Green Bay. And this area that I described, it's almost like an L-shaped area. This has more sightings than I can even imagine. There's all kinds of sightings here. That is one large area that I couldn't put my finger on why there would be this scenario, other than, okay, Chicago's there, maybe Gary, Indiana, and up the way is Milwaukee. All right, maybe those cities are adding to it, but if that's true, then there would be other anomalies in other similarly sized cities, and there aren't. So right wrapped around Lake Michigan, there was one great big area. There are other areas, say, for instance, in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee up in the mountains. There are some really unique things going on here. The mountains are there, and if I'm not mistaken, there have been ships seen going into the mountains, like the side of the mountain open up, in goes the ship, and then the mountain closes up, and you can't tell that there's an opening there. Right. So that's one big area. The entirety of the Ohio River, which is on the lower side of Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, and where that goes down into the Mississippi. Then we have northwestern Arkansas, up in the mountains. The only thing there is a couple of manufacturing facilities and distribution centers. There's no reason to have a whole ton of sightings there. No reason at all. But they're there. And then we have Colorado, which are like 4 different areas there in Colorado. Excuse me, there's actually 5 of them. Going from north to south, we have at the very top, I can't remember the name of that, Fort something or other in Colorado, all the way down to Pueblo. And in the middle would be Boulder, Denver, and Colorado Springs. And then there's one out in the far western section of Colorado, right on the border of Utah. There's a whole bunch of pins in this little tiny town. I mean, nothing made sense there. And we have Utah, which is the same kind of thing. There's 3 areas right above each other. Salt Lake City, then an area north and an area south. And then in the bottom southwestern corner of Utah, there's a whole nother group of sightings right out in the middle of nothing. Oh. So there's some really interesting areas. There's some areas in California. As a matter of fact, there's cited 11 different areas in California that are unusual. And I think one of the most interesting things is the river that separates Washington from Oregon, the Columbia River. Along that entire length, there's sightings right along the river, all the way up by the Hanford Nuclear Center, and it's very interesting. The funny story, I was actually doing the map, and I started doing Washington State. I hadn't done Oregon yet, so I had a bunch of pins in Washington State, and I think I stopped to go out to the store or something or other. And when I came back, I looked at the map and looked at where the pins were, and this wiggly area crossed Washington State along the border of Oregon, all the way out, about 3/4 of the way out, and then it went north. And you could see this line of sightings. And I said, "What the heck is that?" So I came in and looked on Google and looked at a map and realized that I was looking at the Columbia River. Very unusual, very unusual. And there's lots of reasons why any of those things that I described to you could be there. And, they vary from pollution to nuclear plants to power plants that are spewing carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. There's lots of reasons. But this is one of the things that has interested me from the beginning. And I mentioned each one of these groups in my books, or actually in Volume 2 and Volume 3, and I went back and rewrote Volume 1 and included that. So that's all a part of the books, all these different anomalies. It's best if you get a book to get a map too, because I refer to the map constantly.
Have you had a chance yet to cross the data on your maps with things like land geology or perhaps ley lines, stuff like that?
Okay, well, that's interesting. With geology, I have looked at a little bit of that. It's very, very difficult to go into a geology website and try to say, well, sandstone is in this area and iron ore is in that area, because everything else is too. It's a mess. So I haven't found a way yet to be able to extract. There's a majority collection of this particular thing there, which is why ET may be interested.
Gotcha.
But I have found that there are several things that could be relating to this, in that in northwestern Arkansas, there's a little town called Bentonville, and in Bentonville they're the distributors for Walmart, for JB Hunt Transportation. There's something else there too that I can't recall, but there's also an area there that has there's a mine, and a bunch of miners came across this mine back in the 1920s, and when they walked into the mine, they were like in awe because the mine was glowing. The inside of the mine was glowing. It was all this colored glowing things in there, and they spent a lot of time in there looking at it, and I think they even took some samples with them, and they realized it didn't glow when it was in the sun. It only glowed when it was in the dark. Well, it just so happens that they came across a radium mine, and 2 days later they ended up in a hospital, and then a couple days after that they were dead because of radiation.
Wow.
Yeah. But radium, when mixed with beryllium, and beryllium can be found in the mountains in eastern Utah, large amounts of it. If you were to combine these two elements, they can be used to tamp down nuclear reactions, which is interesting. So maybe the people that are visiting these areas have found these substances and are utilizing them.
Right.
Now, that's the only tie-in I saw with geology. There's other tie-ins with earthquakes, but that is it's a minor in that regard. It isn't the link that I thought it was.
Why don't we pause here?
Why don't we take our next commercial break? You are listening to Paraversal Universe. We'll be right back with our guest for the next segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. So let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on the Rift Radio Network and on the airwaves at WCET-FM. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek. This segment is brought to you by the Parasociology like page on Facebook. Parasociology is a study of how paranormal manifestations and experiences can affect a family, group, or collective. Parasociology also examines how spirituality is practiced in different cultures. So go check that out if you get a chance and leave a like for future content. All right, back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we are speaking with ufologist Tom Conwell. Are you still with us, Tom?
What would you do if I said no? Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So, one of the things we wanted to discuss that was on the list was, and we touched on disclosure before, but to get into the disclosure and the Pythagorean theorem.
There you go. Okay. I like things in short bits. If I can, Chrissy, stop. If I can create a mathematical equation, I feel right at home. Okay, I love mathematics. I love how it can concisely put a whole bunch of things into something very descriptive. All right. So what I did was I took this whole thing about disclosure, and I put that into a theorem. And this theorem, the intent was to take all of the very important aspects of disclosure and equate it to something that existed already in mathematics. Now, in mathematics, Pythagoras said that created a formula that if you have a triangle with a right angle in it, meaning an angle of 90 degrees, and you have two sides, you can figure out what the other side is based on knowing what two of them are. So, and that formula was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I thought, well, this is a well-known formula. Let me see if I can put this in a topic of disclosure and equate the basic elements that would exist within disclosure and put them into this theorem. Well, what I had was sightings across the country, if not the world, and I had what the governments knew. Okay. But something was missing there because what we talked about before was what the Native American elders knew. And I believe that you can force disclosure by revealing what the Native American elders knew and why they knew it and why it was important to them. I think that you can go down that road towards disclosure if this was one of the elements. So I needed a formula that included three things that equal disclosure. So I went to Pythagorean theorem and realized that a three-dimensional Pythagorean theorem would be a squared plus b squared plus c squared equals d squared, and not just the two-dimensional Pythagorean theorem. I used a three-dimensional, so now I have three variables. Those variables are a squared, a equals all of the information in the news services, Chrissy, all of the information that included the news services and what the government knows are all one great big thing. And I called that A. B, I used the big picture. And that big picture is taking the sightings that are in all of the databases around the world and looking at them as one holistic thing, and not taking one particular sighting, like let's just talk about Roswell and only talk about Roswell, or let's take one other and only talk about that. Because what happens when you do that, you get a whole line of people lining up ready to tell you that, oh yeah, well, Roswell was a balloon. There really weren't ETs there. It's simple to debunk. But when you look at the thing in a whole picture and realize that there's millions of sightings across the United States and the world, you can't very well dismiss that. So that's the big picture. That's B. For C, it's the collective minds. The collective minds meaning all of the information that's in the minds of the Native American elders. If you took any one or any two of those things, you can almost force the D for disclosure. You can almost force it because you're going to have so much information out. So That's what I did when I put it into a formula. A squared plus B squared plus C squared equals D squared, or all of the information that the news services can transmit and the government knows, plus the big picture, looking at everything holistically, plus the collective, taking the information in the minds of the Native American elders, you can force disclosure. So I did that for my own benefit, but thought it was kind of interesting. So I stick it in my presentations when I go out and do talks.
That's really interesting.
That is.
And that's always one of the I guess struggles and assets we have in as far as like when we talk about paranormal sciences, and there's so much stuff that we can't quantify in laboratory settings, but if you can apply mathematics, and math doesn't lie. That's one of the reasons I believe, for example, the universe is teeming with life, is because the math, when you do the math on it, it suggests that that is so, and that is the most likely.
Yeah, that's the Drake equation.
And yeah, and to me that is that's hard to ignore. I mean, so
yeah. Now, one of the other things I do, in addition to talking about the Pythagorean theorem, is I'll look out into the audience and watch the people, and if it's a strictly older audience, what will happen is they'll start to tune out. You can tell they look down at their phone, or they'll yawn, or whatever else. And then I flip up the next slide, and the next slide is how to bake a cake. You bake a cake with flour and eggs and chocolate, and you mix them in a certain regard, little water, you cook it up, and voila, you have a cake. All right. It's the same with disclosure. Disclosure is made up of, and then I go into the different things. So I have various ways to go after it. As soon as I say math, some people go la 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 and put their and but other people are interested. So I give a little bit of that and a little bit of baking a cake, and it seems to satisfy everybody.
So we have another question for you from somebody else in chat. What patterns in UFO sightings have you noticed as far as descriptions and how they link up with cultural variations? For example, how would Mexican UFOs differ from Canadian UFOs, or for that matter, Japanese versus South African?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. I have seen differences between the east and west coast of the United States, even though we're all supposedly talking the same language. On the east coast, they will call these balls of fire in the sky fireballs. You get out to other places in the country, and there'll be burning spheres. And you go out to somewhere else, and they'll just be called spheres. Well, which is which? Well, you have to read the description and the report to be able to tell what it is you're looking at. But these variations in just our own language throw monkey wrenches into everything. So when you have when you're comparing sightings to the United States from a different country, all the regular norms are thrown out the window. You don't know what the heck you're going to get, and it's very difficult to describe them. However, having said that, I can also mention that the same things that are seen in the United States are also seen in other countries of the world. Same things. In other words, there isn't one planet that send a group and an envoy to the Earth, and they're only hanging out in Japan. No, they're here to look at the whole picture, and they see the planet as one race. Unfortunately, we don't as humans. We see it as multiple races, and that's just wrong. But every single sighting is the same as every single other sighting everywhere else. They're just described differently. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, it answered it perfectly. And we have two more questions from you. And these come from Walt. So the first one, yesterday or the day before, Iranian
Walt, take it easy on us. Wow. I mean, this is about the fourth one here. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Walt says yesterday or the day before, Iranian jets were scrambled and fired on UFOs, which evaded them at speeds said to be Mach 10. What do you make of that?
Well, first observation, the Iranian pilots are idiots because they're just going to end up ditched somewhere. Did it happen? It may have. I think it's a bad choice to do what they did, provided they actually did that. But well, I don't have much to say about it other than it was pretty dumb.
Right. And the other one is, what do you think of crop circles?
Oh, very interesting. I think crop circles are mathematical representations, and they're trying to give us a message. Don't know what the message is, have no clue. I wish that I had a book that had every single crop circle in it in the order in which they were put onto the planet. Then I could look at them for some sort of progression. I don't know what I would find, but what you see now is like the really pretty ones. Well, what relationship does that have with the one that came after that or before that? You know, that's the data I would like to see.
It's definitely, crop circles are definitely an interesting mystery.
Very much so.
There's no doubt. Yeah, and we'd like to say thanks to everyone in chat that's throwing questions out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Except for Walt.
Oh, we love Walt.
Yeah.
Walt is awesome. Walt is awesome. Yeah, and Sudan.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome question, guys. And another one I have is live PD. How does that relate to UFOs?
Oh, okay. Pretty interesting. In the promo for live PD, let me go to that picture here on my computer. I can describe it better. In the promo for live PD, it says across it live PD in great big white letters, and there may be a little thing across the top that will describe where they're going to be going. Okay, but I don't care about that. What I care about is the background of this particular picture, and the background of this particular picture is a map of the United States at night with lights that are, of course, brighter in the larger cities, and they have bright red dots over certain cities. And I think that relates to the cities that they have the cops out in the field. But if you think of just that picture with just those dots on the screen, and go to the website of Live PD, and you'll see what I mean. And you'll see the U.S. map with bright red dots on it. If you were to connect the lines there, is that going to remind you of a constellation? I wasn't sure, but I thought it when I saw it, I thought, what if there's a constellation that it will remind you of? What if it happens to be a perfect representation, these little dots on there? And I don't mean just the live PD dots on there. I mean all of the cities, because when you look at my map, you're going to see thousands of pins, and you're going to see concentrations of these pins in various areas, more in the East Coast than the West. But what would happen if you overlaid a constellation on top of that? Are you going to see a pattern? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I did that, and I came up with 3 or 4 of them that are promising.
Wow. That's like sacred geometry and gematria mixed together.
Yep.
Very interesting. Yeah. You know, for sure. Ever since antiquity, we've been finding out that a lot of these sacred sites and whatnot, and cities, when you look from up above, you can see different patterns that represent constellations, and that's really that's and so I would expect that somehow that's either something that's just manifesting that way. Actually, no, I don't believe in coincidence. I know Jennifer doesn't really believe in coincidence.
There are no coincidences.
I know some people believe in the theory of coincidence, but you know, for us, we just figure that is an easy way of putting something off when you can't connect the dots. Just to say it's a coincidence. It's just you don't know where the connection lies. But anyways, I digress.
Do you have to take another break?
We are, yes, actually. Yes. We do right now.
All right.
Okay.
It is time for our last commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe Radio. We will be right back with our guests for the final segment.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk only on Paranormal Experience Radio. Broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Abnormal Alabama presents Crypticon October 25th and 26th at the Port of the Wharf, Orange Beach. Bigfoot, the paranormal, authors and speakers, vendors, and your chance to experience the Psychomantium. There'll be a costume contest and much, much more. October 25th and 26th at the Port of the Wharf, Orange Beach. Get more info, directions, and tickets available now at abnormalalabama.com. That's abnormalalabama.com.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Alrighty, we're back, everyone. This is Paraversal Universe, produced by WBHM Digital Broadcasting. Also heard on WCET-FM and the Rift Radio Network. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek, and we are glad you are with us as always. There are some Facebook group pages we would like for you to check out. The Ultimate Conspiracies group page is one, which is dedicated to conspiracies, crimes, and corruption. And also check out Lake Monstrosities, dedicated to aquatic mysteries and wonders. feel free to join them both. We would love to see you there. Each network mentioned here tonight has a group and like page on Facebook as well. So check out their pages for upcoming content. This segment is brought to you by the 5-star Reader Choice Award-winning epic fantasy trilogy Helm by Robert L. Malek. And back to the show. This is Paraversal Universe, and we were talking to ufologist Tom Conwell. Tom, are you with us?
I'm back.
Awesome. So, next question. If you could change anything in ufology, what would it be?
I guess as far as ufology goes, what I would like to see is absolutely everybody getting along with each other and sharing their data.
Yeah. And that's... Go ahead.
So we have another question from you from the chat. Has the guest looked into the historical influence of UFOs, such as interfering with or helping with human history by one means or another?
No. And I assume that means over the long history of the earth and for all of that. No, I have not done that. I have limited myself to the entirety of the National UFO Reporting Center and what that database has to reveal. And it doesn't reveal anything about interactions or how ET's getting along with us or us with them or anything like that. So the answer is no, I haven't.
Okay. We do want to point out to everybody that you have 4 books. You have 3 books in a series, correct? And they're called They Are Here, Part 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And each part is on a different part of the U.S. Is that correct?
Yep, East, Central, and West.
Awesome. And then the 4th book is what?
The 4th book is a collection of blogs. And these blogs, about half of them were written when I first became a ufologist. And I wanted to discuss how UFOs do what they do. And I just generally discussed the physics involved, what kind of physics problems they have to solve, how easy it would be for us to solve them, how they may have solved them, and just to talk about the whole picture of UFOs, how they got here, what they had to do, and whatever else. And that book is entitled, I just forgot the name of the book. What a dope. That book is entitled Going Interstellar. Yeah, Going Interstellar. And that book was also written, the foreword was written by your guy's boss, Kat Hobson, and she did a very nice job and paying some nice compliments to me. So,
yes, Kat's awesome.
She is.
And she produces Paraversal Universe.
Yep.
The Voice of Fate Magazine Radio and Paranormal Experience. 2 excellent shows. For sure, absolutely. And she's on the Paralogian Report with us every other week.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So that's turning out to be a really cool show. We're really having a good time with that. Well, let's see, what time do we have? 49. We have time for a couple more questions. Let's see what we have here. So, do you think you had brought up the moon before, and some of the we'll say some theories are just more plausible than others. But what do you think that we've been to the moon? And do you think the footage we see is actual space footage?
Yes, I think we've been to the moon. It bothers me to think that some people think we haven't. I personally think we've been to the moon.
Right.
And now, as far as the moon itself goes, one of the theories about that is that it's really a ship that was brought into orbit around our planet, and is really a civilization living inside of it. Now, that I think that is just totally bogus, because the moon is having a huge effect on the Earth with tides. Now, they aren't going to do that by a hollowed out ship. They're going to have to do that with one great big rock in the sky, and it's going to have to be absolutely huge. Now, did they willow out a little portion of that and create a living space? That's possible, but it's not a ship, and I don't think it's even possible that it was ever a ship.
You know, I believe we've been to the moon too, and I don't know if all the stuff we see is from that, and I only say that because I think it would have been foolish to risk such an operation on live TV, knowing that so many things could go wrong, and actually upset America, opposed to, fill America with happiness, I guess, if something were to go wrong. So they, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think we've been to the moon, and I don't know what our business is there, but again, I'm not so sure. I don't know though. I just don't know.
Yeah. I believe that they rolled the dice, and a whole lot of footage did come directly from the moon. And if there was a catastrophe, there was a catastrophe. We all knew how difficult it was going to be. And I think they rolled the dice. I really do. And they said, this is worth it. Everybody wants to know. And that's where we stand on that.
And let's see. Other fields relevant to ufology. I guess and also new tech, and that's something we didn't have a time to talk about, because I know you're also into electronics and technology. And we'll have to have you back on one of these days, because I was just talking to a friend recently, and we were talking about different electronic, like electromagnetic frequency meters and stuff, but the kind that they use professionally, let's say for like when they build like radiation rooms or those kinds of things, the stuff that the people doesn't have access to. Just interesting stuff. But
yeah, and there's ways to use the instruments. They aren't intended to do some of the things you see the people do with them on television, like wave them around or move quickly. Oh, I have a spike. Well, it's because you waved it, There's just a whole lot of stuff you see that, people don't understand what it is they're using. And
right.
And that's really unfortunate, because it gives people a whole lot of false positives, and they draw a lot of ridiculously obtuse conclusions based on what it is that the machine in front of them is telling them, and they don't even know how it works, and that's really unfortunate.
That's true, and you're right. So we're going to, we got, let's see, 5 minutes left. Was there any links that you'd like to share with everyone?
Any up and coming projects,
Events,
anything?
lectures?
Okay. Let me give you a couple of links. First of all, I would like to mention my Facebook page. Usually several times a week, I post something about ufology right on my Facebook page. My Facebook address is, of course, facebook.com/tom.conwell, CONWELL.3. Most of my postings are for all to see, so there shouldn't be anything you can't see on there. You can share in some of the nonsense and some of the difficult subjects I try to tackle. And I'm not accepting friends at this point. I had a problem on Facebook a little while back. So you can follow me there and be able to read some of the things that I wrote. You also have the option of sending me an email. Let me give you my email address. I listen very carefully because it's confusing, okay? The email address is TCONWEL2, not LL like my name is spelled, but WEL2 at nycap.rr.com. You feel free to send me an email if you'd like to discuss something, and mention in the subject line something relevant so that I don't delete them, because I usually delete about 70 a day. My webpage is only going to be up for a very short time, and then I'm taking it down. But you can get onto my webpage and order my books if you'd like, or you can also order them through my email. But my web address is www.theyAreHere-Conwell, CONWELL.com. www.theyAreHere, all one word, -Conwell, CONWELL.com. And you get my my webpage. You can see what my books look like with a little tiny description in there. Or you can also get my books off of Amazon. Just search for my name, and I'll have 4 books in there. And now, places I'm going to be, I have purposely not scheduled a lot of things because I was going out on vacation here in another couple of weeks. But nice. I do have one talk coming up, and that talk is going to be given in Pine Bush, New York, which is southern New York, at the Walker Valley Schoolhouse Community Center, and it's on October 2nd at 7 p.m. And I have a few other irons in the fire that may pop other talks shortly afterward. But that's what I'm doing at this point. And again, if you'd like to have me speak at a conference or whatever, please get in touch with me by either email or Facebook or whatever. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Also, the maps that I have are available. I took pictures of a 30 by 50 map that I created with pins in it. I took pictures of it, and I have it in 8.5 by 11 and an 18 by 24 format. And those are also orderable off of the web. So I think that's just about everything that I can think of.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon and sharing it with us and sharing
your wisdom and your knowledge. It's great. We very much greatly appreciate it, and we very much greatly appreciate you and the time you've given us. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer and Kevin. This was a lot of fun, and I hope we can do it again.
Absolutely. Alrighty, we'd like to thank everybody. We'd like to thank ufologist Tom Conwell for being so informative. We'll be back next week with another Paralogian report, news, current events, and history analysis with a diverse panel of Paralogians. Always fun. Feel free to support any of the networks mentioned here tonight, as well as the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited, 501c3 nonprofit charity organization, by donating. It's folks like you who ensure that these excellent organizations will be here tomorrow. To the believer, the evidence is overwhelming.
And to the skeptic, there will never be enough.
Thank you. Good night. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and we'll see you here next time.
Good night, everyone.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.